Kings and Queens, welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the European Youth Chess Championships and of course my games in the tournament and how I did. So, let's go! Alright, so to start the analysis of this event, of course I'm gonna tell a little story, and we'll do that. Yeah, we're gonna start with round 3 because the first two games, quite frankly, they weren't very exciting. The first game I won pretty convincingly, and then the second game, it wasn't quite one I want to show here. It's not really that entertaining, but this game is. It for sure is. So let's just have a look. This game opens up with e4. I'm of course playing with the black pieces as my name is Reese. Therefore, the channel's named Calculated Risks because that is what I'm taking. So we get e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, take, knight f6, knight c3, d6. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this a couple of times in Title Tuesday. I've played this. I haven't exactly, mentioned this opening too many times on this channel, I think. But it is quite a nice one, and one that I would use a couple of more times in said tournament. I think 3 games were played in this opening by me with quite a good score. So essentially, I've gained a center pawn and white's gonna play on the initiative. Let's just go through a couple of more moves of theory. Bishop g5, bishop d7, queen d2, a6, and we get this sort of standard tabia. And to my shock, because my opponent is 2380 live, he did not know what he was doing here. This is just one of the main lines. I've studied this for quite a lot of time, and I've put a lot of effort into it, and then here already he was out of book. I hope you guys can see the time usage here on the left side of the screen. He plays king b1, queen c7, and then here he starts thinking, plays that move bishop e3. And it is quite conventional wisdom. Of course, the engine still says 0.2 for white, but why does he play bishop e3? Well, he wants to play this move g4. And when he plays g4, he wants to be able to push g5, attacking my knight. Ultimately, kind of dislodging my king side. Now, if he were to play g4 right here, black would have this move h5. And after h5, white has to take, and then we get knight takes h5. And although I get a king in the center, this was played by Grishuk, I think. Here, bishop c4. No, not this position, wait. Maybe with a couple of extra moves. I think like rook g1, and then eventually he plays like bishop c4 and pawn to f4, and it's quite an interesting position, but it is not one my opponent wanted to play. He didn't want to allow h5 here, kind of breaking the pawn structure, reducing the attacking potential. Okay? So, sorry if this is a bit, difficult to grasp, but that's what he's getting at. Plays bishop e3 here, thinks he's smart, because, well, if I just play a random move, let's say I just play b5, it's very thematic. White comes on the king side, black comes on the queen side in the Sicilian. So, I'm playing b5, going for the initiative, but here he would go g4, and now after h5, he, of course, doesn't have to take, he plays g5, and, of course, I'm losing this game because my knight has to go here, and then he takes this, and then we can take a cold shower. So, instead of playing b5, I of course knew that the best move in this position is h5, immediately preventing white from playing g4, because of course now I could simply take. And, well, my opponent can play g4 now, because I've played h5, and, well, actually his position is pretty difficult, because the thematic theme of this position is white attacks on the king side, and, well, black comes on the queen side with b5 and rook b8. So, yeah, in this position, I'd say black sort of has the initiative, even though the computer calls it equal. This is a little bit stubborn, It was also played by Dominguez Perez against Sam Shankland with the white pieces, but also in that game, Sam Shankland ended up winning. So that's what I'm getting at. All right, enough yapping, let's see the game. So we got bishop e2, we get b5, of course I'm doing exactly that, attacking on the queen side, and we get already the move a3. This may seem counterintuitive, but essentially my opponent wants to prevent b4 bundled with rook b8. So he plays a3 so I can take with the pawn. We get bishop c6, a prophylactic move. This move is designed so that after g4, takes. Essentially, I'm gonna get this d7 square for my knight. So I play queen b7, bishop f3, and now knight d7. And you may be going like, what are you doing? Come on, he can take your pawn. Yeah, but of course I saw this. Here you can play bishop f6, trapping the queen. So that would be impossible. And you may be wondering, why is this good for black? Like, okay, of course, it looks quite compact, but, white has all these pieces developed, has some open file, maybe you can push h4. But in fact, you have to look at the white king and the black king. Knight e5, knight c4 is my idea, and also a5, b4, opening up the a file. Yeah, allowing queen a6 with checkmate possibilities. And so essentially this position is very great because white has no fast way of advancing his counterplay, and I do. Okay, bishop c6, prophylactic move against g4. We get h4. Yeah, this move designed to put bishop on g5, maybe play g4 at a later moment. And here I play just the best move in the position. I play rook b8. Yeah, I'm preparing a5 and b4, and I simply want to checkmate this guy. Like, it's pretty obvious, you know, I just want to attack. And the reason I'm not castling is then, you know, now g4 is pretty serious. Because now, you know, my king is on g8. So now comes g5, h5, h6, and look, he's played a3, put a queen on d4, he has blocked my counterplay, and he's coming. It's not good for me. So, I don't castle, I want to keep my king in the center. And, well, knowing that I have to keep my king in the center, there's only two moves I think about. Queen b7 and rook b8. Because obviously a5 hangs this pawn. So, if queen b7, he has this move e5, which is an extra option. Because I don't have my queen on c7 anymore. And this, you know, it looks pretty tricky. You know, he kind of has opened up the position. And my queenside attack is coming a little bit more slow compared to in the game. And here I still have to move queen d8, going for the endgame. But of course, you know, this is pretty unnatural to play chess like this. Playing queen b7, then queen b8. I didn't see this, and also I was playing pretty fast because, like you guys can see, my opponent spends so much time here. And chess is also a practical game. You have to move fast, you have to go. This is a mistake I've made earlier on this channel as well, you know, in, for example, entitled Tuesday, but also in my video about the 7 or I think like 5 most common mistakes. I don't even remember, but essentially there was this mistake of time management, and this has been something that's haunted me in the past, but recently I've been able to manage this quite well. I'm playing fast, and you know, sometimes you just have to make a move and let go of the fear of being wrong. So I play rook b8 with the idea of a5 b4. Sorry for spoiling that right there, but essentially if he plays any move that isn't queen a7, I'm going to do exactly that. a5 and then b4, and well, it turns out black is just faster than white. Queen a7, best move. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook b7, bishop b3. Okay, what happened? How's this position? Let's orient for a second. So stay with me now. Here we have black. He has less pawns on the queen side, but he can attack this king. Now here white has, you know, some attacking potential with g4, but this pawn on e4 always hangs. So essentially I can just castle, play rook b8 and b4, and my opponent kind of has to wait. And he can't really do anything. This is why, you know, conventional wisdom tells us that an endgame in the Sicilian, even if it's equal, is probably better for black. You know, that's kind of what they say. Now, of course, this isn't true because that is contradictory, but it is more of a reference on how easy the position is to play for both sides. So let's see. I castle, obviously intending to play rook b8. We get bishop g5, activating that piece, and now a5. b4, you know, actually the best move. I didn't expect this because it looks very weakening. You know, it looks like I take. This pawn is weak, you know, so d5 could come and I could take. But here he can actually take this, attacking my bishop. And of course here is e5, and this is a pin. And I don't want to trade this bishop. So, essentially, let me just get back to the right position. Here, wait, I say I'm gonna get back to the right position and then I put the rook on c8. But so essentially I can't play d5 yet, so I play rook c8, you know, trying to attack this knight on c3, and then maybe I'm gonna double. And essentially here you guys can see I'm really good at managing the time compared to my opponent, and this is also what wins me the game, because this endgame, of course, it's good for black, but it's not like winning or anything. It's just a good position. And you know, here bishop f8. Of course, if you guys notice what I said earlier, you will know why I played this move. After d5, my opponent has e5, trading the bishops. Therefore, bishop f8. Still, now I want to play d5, so let's say he makes a stupid move. Now I can do this. And then after e5, of course, this knight can just, you know, hop out of the way. So that's why I play bishop f8. And additionally, I want to move this knight into some juicy squares. Rook d2. Knight d7. Yeah, here d5 doesn't work because he can take. I'm not gonna get into it. We got knight d7. Rook a1. Taking the open file, knight e5, bishop f4, bishop e7, and bishop takes e5. Question mark move. You know, I've said the sentence a couple of times on this channel, and why is this a question mark move? Well, this move is very treacherous. I'm attacking this pawn on h4, and well, when he takes, I'm attacking both the pawns. So why would he take? You may think like, what is this guy doing? But if you were to play, you know, a move like bishop g3, guarding this. Now my bishop gets to the open diagonal. Yeah, and now there's gonna be tactics against this knight. So, okay, let's say he just completely falls asleep at the wheel, yeah? Like, he plays this move, and then I'm also gonna make a couple of stupid moves, yeah? But let's say this. Now you guys can see the rook and the bishop are lined up, so I can take here and then take on c3. So, essentially, this bishop on f6 is just beautiful, which is why he was pressured into, you know, like, now I'm never gonna get that diagonal, of course, but it comes at a cost. Yeah, he should have played g3 here, and apparently the position is still playable, but still very scary with moves like knight c4, moves like rook c7. I take black any day. Anyways, we got takes, and king b3 guarding the b4 pawn, and I, of course, just snap that pawn off of h4. Yeah, and now I'm up a pawn, but okay, still it's... there's no clear way for me to win yet, so let's just see how I convert this. We get the rook into the game, bishop d8, immediately attacking the rook, alleviating the pressure from the b5 pawn, but doing so in a manner that keeps my pieces active. Rook takes b5, sacrifices the exchange, because if you were to do nothing, you know, I could simply, you know, put my bishop on e7, I guard all the squares, and it's just a matter of technique and time before my opponent perishes. So rook takes b5, sacks the exchange, and now he gets two connected passed pawns. I play bishop e7. Yeah, I play this move because now this pawn is hanging and to guard the d6 square. c4, and now a very great prophylactic move in my opinion, rook b8. Now, why do I play this move? That is because now if he moves his knight, this pawn on b4 can be captured by my rook. Or let's say to d6. Yeah, now this pawn can be captured. So essentially, he cannot move any of his pieces. He plays c5 in the game, which is kind of forced in my opinion. And now I sacrifice my rook, but it's not really a sacrifice because I just kind of take his piece. But come on, it was funny to say. Okay, he has two connected passed pawns and his king is gonna run up the board and he's gonna push his pawns and my king is still on g8. But I did not see any ghost here. I just calculated the game more or less to the end. King c4, rook b8, rook d7, king f8. b5, and now this great move I played is rook c8. Because if my opponent were to get the pawn to b6 and let's say here, you know, he can walk in like this, then I'm cooked, as they say. But, ladies and gentlemen, after rook c8, I forced this pawn to move. And now the king cannot come near the pawns. He cannot assist the pawns. And if b6 happens, I can simply take that c6 pawn. So now I bring the king, rook a7, bishop g5, simply trying to activate my rook and also setting up a tactic. You see, my opponent might have thought he was winning here with the move b6. And as you guys can see, this is a losing move, but of course it was losing already. So I don't, like, it's a bad move, but it's not like it's a really big mistake or anything. But okay, b6, I take, and I simply take. And now my opponent resigns the game as there's nothing left to be done. You see, after king takes b6, I play bishop e3. And that is a pin. And then, of course, I'm up 2 pawns in the pawn end game. I simply walk my king. And he believes I could convert this, obviously. So this was my first game against, you know, a higher rated player in the tournament. And this really gave me some confidence. And, you know, it made me very sure of my play. Because not only did I, of course, beat a higher rated player, I also did so in quite a nice fashion with, yeah, just a lot of good moves and no real mistakes. So that's why this was really a nice moment for me. And now let's go to the second game. All right, so let's have a look at the game that was played directly after the last one. So we just looked at the third round and now we are going to look at the fourth round. And in this round I decide to play e4 because I of course have the white pieces and e4 is the best move always. We get e6, d4, d5, e5, c5, c3, knight c6, knight f3, queen b6. And here, ladies and gentlemen, I play a move that is quite unpopular. You know, you could try to guess which move I played. You're probably not gonna guess it. Unless you're like a real expert in French positions, maybe then you will. But essentially here I play this move, not a3, which is the main line. I play a4. And this move is dirty. It is. It is. Because the engine, this low depth engine says -0.3. In reality, it's about like plus 0.1. Yeah, so it's like slightly better for white, but it's kind of eh. But the surprise value is what matters. You know, this was played one time before by Nordibek Abdusattorov. I don't know if it's been played in the meantime, but you know, I've known this move for some time. And of course, my opponent surprised me with the French defense. Yeah, I forgot to tell that. So I thought, you know, I'm gonna surprise him back. Even though I hadn't looked at this line in quite a while, I felt, you know, he would have obviously looked at the other lines in this position, and a4 would come as a surprise for sure. So I thought, you know, I'm just gonna surprise him, and then, yeah, we're gonna get a fight. So let's see how this turns out. C takes d4, c take d4, bishop d7, And now I play bishop e2. Yeah, like the idea of a4, by the way, because it looks so stupid to give up this b4 square, the knight a5. We are going to see it very shortly. I play bishop e2 right now, but the idea is to play bishop b5 later. But if I play bishop b5 right now, he can play knight e7 and recapture on c6 with the knight. Now, right now this makes no sense, but let's have a look at the game and then you'll understand. Okay, so bishop e2, I want to play bishop e5. We got knight h6. He wants to put his knight on f5. I snap that off the board. Like, I just take it. We got g takes h6, and now I decide to castle. Excuse me. And now we got a mistake, rook c8. Yeah, it's not a good move. He should have taken this pawn, accepted my gambit. I would play knight bd2 here, and, well, it's just a very unclear position. Black has a weak king, and although he's up a pawn, there's also some rook b1, rook b7. It's very dangerous for the black player if he doesn't have any preparation here, and I would again just take the white pieces here. So my opponent plays rook c8, just develops a piece, thinking, well, what's the worst that could happen? But here I decide to play quite a nice move. I play bishop b5, and it's very counterintuitive. This concept, you know, the best move that the engine suggests for black is to play knight a5, allowing the king to come to d7. And why is this? Well, you know, I'm geeking out right now, but it's because after a6, which is played in the game, I can take on c6, exclam move, we get b takes c6, and what has happened? The pressure on d4 is alleviated, so I've given up my best piece, my light squared bishop, which is often used in the attack, you know, after knight h4, queen h5, I give it up, all for the pressure to be like relieved on this d4 pawn. And now, you know, you have to look at what remains on the board, not what you give up. And what remains is 2 knights versus 2 bishops. But this bishop on d7 is quite poor, and this bishop on g7 has to guard the king because he's gonna castle short. And so what happens is this is just very good for white, and we're gonna see why. Now, first of all, I was thinking about this move knight bd2. I ultimately didn't play it. I played knight c3 with the idea of a5, knight a4. Interesting move. We got c5, and now I play d into c5. We get rook takes c5. Yeah, actually, he should have played queen b2. I was thinking this during the game. I kind of messed up a calculation, and I sort of... Because I was thinking about the position with the knight on d2 after queen takes b2, but it's on c3, and now, you know, things are kind of unclear after knight d2. Still better for white, but, you know, it's not too bad for black. So he should have gone for this. But, in fact, you know, he plays that move, rook takes c5. And now I play knight e2, trying to get my knight to the king side. And now, you know, it kind of becomes a blunderfest, if you will. He plays queen b4, which is not a good move because it's taking way too much time for him to play like this. Yeah, he should have just taken this pawn. And, I mean... Okay, we can't really blame him. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, he has to allow my rook to come in. You know, the queen is gonna come, you know, from this diagonal because the rook has to go back, and it just looks so scary. You know, it looks so scary. And he didn't have that much time either. Again, I'm playing very fast, which is something I've really improved in this tournament. I'm really proud of that. So he plays queen b4, and now I make a mistake myself. I play queen d3. Yeah, I want to take this pawn, but here he has one resource and one resource only. If you want to pause the video, do it right here. It's actually beautiful. So he could play queen e4, and now I have to go back, and essentially I lose the tempo. So his mistake of queen b4 gets alleviated. You see, after queen takes a6, which is the obvious intention of playing queen d3. Yeah, he can play bishop c8, and he can just kind of take my knight like that. You know, so it happens. You know, we're just not gonna discuss this. He plays bishop g7. Who cares? Knight g3. Of course, I'm trying to get to h5 still. Castles, and now we get knight h5. Yeah, of course, I'm just carrying out my plan. It's not too deep. Rook c4, and now, oh, this move was so good. You know, in this position, you can see I have 31 minutes, but actually I'm finding this position pretty difficult. I don't know exactly what to play because, well, although my knight is quite nice, he's gonna come on the queen side. He has some play, and, well, I was thinking, how am I really gonna make any progress here? And then, you know, I was like, wait. So if we look at this position, I want to play knight d4, queen g3, and just cook him on the queen side. King side, I mean, and checkmate him. Now, of course, this can't be played because, yeah, he can kind of take that. Now, after rook b1, I want to play b3, and as you guys can see, rook e4, b3, exclam move. No. Here, the rook is in the center of the board, and it cannot go back. So essentially this rook is sort of restricted now. This rook has nowhere to really go. It can only go to the g4 square, and yeah, I mean, it's not really doing anything. Like, it's not like I'm getting checkmated. And now I can just start playing on the queen side even. Like, I just have an extra rook, if you think about it. So this is exactly what I was reaching for. So we get rook c8. And now I play rook fc1. Now, this low depth calls it, you know, an X move. But, you know, this other move, queen takes a6, okay, it's probably a better move. But the reason, of course I saw this move, by the way, but the reason I play rook fc1 is because it allows 0 counterplay. I think 1 minute, you know, because there's no increment on move 40, so I really have to move quickly. And I was like, rook fc1, okay, I can take this pawn on a6, but then he kind of gets some counterplay. Why would I allow any of this? Let me just bring my last piece that isn't playing. Let's bring it into the game. So, you know, even though it's maybe not the best move, I don't really care, to be honest. We get rook c1, and now I have the open file, and essentially it became clear to me I was winning this game. And now we got bishop takes e5, queen takes a6, and king f8, and now I play a very nice move, which is knight g3, exclam move. Now, of course, you know, I'm still doing better after queen d3, for example, but the thing is, once he gets his king here, you know, it's kind of unclear. Like, it's good for white, but black has some potential in this position. But after this move, knight g3, he has to take because the rook is again stuck. And this is what I did all those moves ago by playing b3, restricting the c4 square. You see what I'm getting at with that move, rook b1, all that time ago? That's a really nice move. Bishop takes g3. H takes g3, and now still this rook is out of the game, and essentially white is winning. We get queen b8. Now, if my opponent were to play queen takes b3 here, I have queen d6 attacking both the king and the bishop, and when he guards him, I have knight d2 forking both pieces. So, my opponent plays queen b8, and now, you know, I play this move queen a5. Trying to get to the dark squares, because that is where he's weak. You know, this light squared bishop can only fight on the light square, so essentially I'm up a piece on the dark squares. This is how you should think about these positions. And of course I want to, you know, get my pawns running, because I have to connect. Queen takes b3, queen c5, king g7, and now I play knight d2, simply, you know, forking both pieces. Actually, here I had another option of playing, like, what is it, queen d8, bishop e8, and then here I have that move, rook c7, you know, trying to mate. He has queen takes a4 still. And here I have queen f6. And, okay, obviously this is winning for white. Why didn't I go for this? Well, that's simply because what I played is just way more efficient. You know, I just check him, he moves, knight d2, I win an exchange. And there's no complications here. I'm just up an exchange. Now I can kind of sit back, relax. Of course not relax, but I can sort of just play moves and it's gonna be checkmate eventually. So I just play rook d1, trying to get my rook into the game. Excuse me, we got bishop a4, rook d4, and queen b1 check. King h2, bishop c2, trying to activate that bishop on g6. Yeah, it's... queen c3, yeah, setting up a double check. We get queen to b3 and he lets me checkmate him shortly. I mean, he didn't let me checkmate him, but, like, it was pretty close. It was close enough for me to say he let me checkmate him. Okay, so that's this game. Yeah, it was a very nice game, of course. You know, start to finish, I was actually dominating. Only a couple of chances that he had in this queen e4 resource, if you remember. But, yeah, overall, I was really happy with this game, too, and this would lead me... land me on a score of 4 out of 4. Alright, so now I'm going to give you guys some context for the tournament. I didn't say I was going to cover this game in the intro, but actually I changed my mind. I'm not going to cover it in its entirety, but I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of the story. So, I'm playing with the black pieces here, and I'm playing against one of the top seeds. He has a rating of 2450, and he is an international master. Now, he opens up that game with e4. We get c5, knight f3, knight c6. We get all that we've seen before, except that my opponent plays king b1 here. Now, here I play this funky line, which really isn't very popular yet, but it's very tricky for white, and actually I immediately equalize. So basically I equalize this game, and then, you know, after some time I get a slightly better position eventually. That's about here, and, you know, although my position was quite nice, at this point I had this move queen e8 retreating, yeah, and it was very difficult to find, and okay, I didn't find it, I messed up, and then we just made a draw. So that's what happened in this game. I had a slight advantage. I couldn't quite convert, and then I made a draw. Okay, now we are also going to look at this game against Korchinski. Now, as you guys can see, this is the first loss of the event. So I'm at 4.5 points out of 5. I'm feeling great. And of course, my opponent is also on 4.5 points out of 5. But this was after the rest day. So after the 5th round, there's a rest day on these European youth events. And this was after the rest day. We're playing. I open up with e4. He plays c5 to my shock. You know, this guy was always playing e6 and c6. But I guess he saw my games against my game against Perosa, which we just saw on the French defense, and he was like, nah, I'm not entering that. So he decided to shock me, play the Najdorf, and actually I got a really promising position. Here I actually saw the good continuation, which is knight e3, rook b8, rook g4, simply attacking this pawn, and I was seeing all sorts of ghost, which is of course, you know, quite thematic when you are playing such a high stakes event, but it is also what led to my downfall in this tournament, which is of course really sad. You know, I played this move h4, and the reason this is a question mark move is because now he has f5 preventing rook g4. You see, I thought it was just a move order thing. I thought it was going to be the same after this. I was going to play rook g4 and then knight d3, but yeah, he played f5, and still I have quite a nice position. Here I play a question mark move, and he doesn't play the right move. Actually, this is the best move, trying to trade the bishops, but essentially what I'm reaching at is that, you know, it was a very hard fought game. I tried my best, and then ultimately, you know, I had so many chances to win this game, but I did not. Or well, I should say chances to get a really good position. Not chances to immediately win, but you know, there's definitely a couple of moments where I could have had a +1 position, and well, in the end I ended up blundering sometime later, and yeah, I kind of got checkmated. So that's what happened in this 6th round I'll never forget, probably. So yeah, let's have a look at the game which happened after this. This was a game against, you know, FIDE Master, and here he kind of played the Alapin, and he decided to just kind of make a quick draw against me, so we're not gonna get into this. He didn't want to play, didn't show up to fight. That's why I'm not covering this one. But of course, you know, from my perspective, this was really painful, because of course I wanted to bounce back after this loss, but I knew also I shouldn't over push, you know, because I'm playing with the black pieces, he's playing the Alapin, and of course he's still a very capable player. You know, both by his score and by his rating, I shouldn't go crazy. Okay, so now that we have all this sad stuff out of the way, I'll never forget, we're gonna look at another banger. So, this game opens up with e4, and, you know, I'm playing at 2400, and if I win this game, I still have chances to get to the 2nd place. We got d5, the Scandinavian defense. This is unprecedented at our level, essentially, because it's just a bad opening. Like, guys, I'm sorry, if you bought some cores on the Scandinavian, like, it's not that good. Like, you kind of need to buy a new course. But we'll get into that another day. Let's just have a look at how this game went. E takes d, queen takes d, knight c3, queen a5, d4, knight f6, knight f3, bishop f5, bishop d2, c6, bishop c4, e6, knight d5. So this was all theory, and now I'm thinking and I see knight d5. And, well, essentially this knight on c3 is misplaced because I want to push this pawn, and I want to trade this knight, which is a pretty good piece, and essentially here I take, and he has to take back with the queen, but then his queen is misplaced. You know, I could hit it with bishop g5 in the future, and so he takes back with the pawn. By the way, his queen is hanging, which is why he cannot do that. So, g takes f6, and now this was still his prep, as you guys can see. He has 132 in time, but to be honest, I was like, what is this guy doing? I don't understand, like, the idea behind this. So I just castled, knight d7, rook e1, I'm trying to get bishop f1, c4, b4, I'm just gonna grab space on the queen side. Eventually I'm gonna get knight h4, attack the bishop. Well, what could be the problem? He plays rook g8, simply getting his rook on the open file, and I play bishop f1. Now we get knight b6, c4, bishop e7, and yeah, here he's out of prep, and it just made no sense to me because, you know, like even after the game, he's out of his prep here, but the position is almost winning for white. It's plus 1.2. Like it's ridiculous that he played this, to be honest, because of course my opponent also had to win in order to have a chance at the trophies, but you know, the way to win with black is not to play such a dubious line. You have to play the Sicilian just like I did and just play for the win in a solid, slow way. And, you know, if you can't force a win with black like that, like you can with white, with that move a4, for example. You can't, like, you know, white has an extra move, and therefore it's just very hard to get away with this dubious stuff. And this game is a testament to exactly that. We got c4. Bishop e7, bishop c3, nice prophylactic move, queen c7, and now a4. Yeah, I want to kick out this knight, which is quite nice. We got bishop g4, g3, and now a move some of you in the audience will go like, what? I can't believe he played that. So, okay, he plays queen f4. And he did not, in fact, hang his queen in one move. Yeah, of course, there's this line for the rook, and he takes, and then I have to block, and now this queen is hanging. So, yeah, he can take here and take. He gets his material back, and I'm losing. It's completely winning for black. So, okay, queen f4, it's a funny move, but also I can just play rook e3, and I just defend everything. Like, he cannot, like, do this. I can just take. And essentially, my position is very solid, and this is how I was thinking during the game. He has doubled pawns. He has a king in the center. I have more space. This knight is misplaced. All these factors basically contribute to the fact that I should probably be winning at this point. That's what I thought. I thought I was winning, and that is confirmed by the engine. As you guys can see, plus 1.7. Okay, and also, he has to play the move a5, preventing a5 by me, which is of course crazy, you know, leaving the queen hanging for another move, not castling, not developing any pieces. It's nonsensical. He plays queen f5, gets out of the attacking of my pawn, and I decide to play a5, simply attacking the knight. So that's of course why the engine wanted to play a5, but yeah, that's crazy. We got knight d7, and now I play a6. Immediately attacking the pawn structure. Yeah, I could have just played bishop g2, but I wanted to play a6, because now after the move b6, played in the game, we got bishop g2, also played in the game, and now if he were to castle, well then this bishop would shine on this diagonal, because this pawn is very weak. Yeah, so queen a4 is gonna come, then knight e5, and then takes and checkmate. That's the idea. So he plays rook c8, keeps his king in the center. And now I play queen f1, simply securing everything. It's just a nice move. And then we get b5. Yeah, he kind of has to do something at this point, because he knows he's losing. Because the point of queen f1 by me was that I'm gonna play rook e1, d5. King is in the center. When the king is in the center, when we have better piece placement, when we have more space, we open up the position. So, this is why I play queen f1, simply preparing rook e1, b5, and now, yeah, the engine suggests already here to just play d5 and just absolutely kill him. Of course I saw this move, but I was like, now I have to calculate all these variations, what if it doesn't work? And instead of, you know, wasting my time on d5, of course it did work, but I thought, well, there's this other move in this position which just completely lets me dominate, zero risk, just beautiful position. I play c5, and I play it in about 4 minutes. Yeah, of course, now this pawn on c6 is fixed, and pawn on a7 is fixed, king is still weak, and this knight can never come to d5. So he has this strong square on d5, but the knight cannot come, because of course I can take, and this pawn is on f6. So yeah, this knight is just cooked. So essentially, after c5, I restrict every piece, you know, in a very Karpovian way, and yeah, he kind of can't do anything. So he plays h5, I play rook e1, queen h7, b4. It's very thematic. I'm just trying to prepare this move, which we will get very soon, which is d5. Now, this move is a clearance sacrifice, I guess, and also just a way to get to the king. So first of all, if he takes like this, I can take the bishop, loses immediately. So he takes c into d5, because he cannot allow d takes c6 and that diagonal. Plays c into d5. And now you guys can see I've got this d4 square for my queen, but more importantly, I have queen takes b5. And now this king is still here, and I'm threatening c6, c7. And I just have a passed pawn on the 5th rank, you know? And like this position is just very good because these pieces aren't participating, this piece isn't participating, and yeah, just all the things I mentioned before, basically. We get h takes g3, that's hard to pronounce, f takes g3, and now we get rook h8 and queen to b7. King d8 and c6. Rook c7, check. I you know, snoop off that pawn with this nice little maneuver. Yeah, I think it's pretty cute. It's just the little, you know, triangle. Okay, he takes off my pawn, and then I play knight d4, exclam. Simply attacking the rook, allowing him to get in, because, well, he doesn't really have any threats. Like, my king is just kind of safe on f2. And he plays rook c8, and now I decide to play h4. Which is, again, the best move, by the way. Like, I don't know why I said it like that. It's still the best move. This move, of course, prevents queen takes h2. And after h4, yeah, he doesn't have any counterplay. And now I can start coming with my counterplay. Bishop d6. Queen to b7. Okay, I'm just preparing a7, queen takes c8, and a8 queen. He plays bishop takes g3, his last desperate attempt at counterplay. I take, and it looks kind of scary because he's threatening mate. But because I was playing so fast during this game, you guys can see I have 10 minutes and he has 50 seconds. So I just, you know, I just sat down, took some of my water, and then I just calculated, and yeah, I could just play this move. I mean, of course, I did that at this move, of course, because I saw bishop takes g3 could happen. But you guys get what I mean, you know? I just calculated it. It doesn't work. I just make a queen. And here, yeah, the reason he gives up his knight is because he had 3 seconds when he played that move. So he had to do something because he was about to get flagged. And then I took it and he resigned. So this was a very nice game where I, again, from the very start to the very end, just completely dominate my opponent. And he is a 2400 player, so I'm pretty happy about that. Alas, all good things must come to an end. Here I'm playing with the black pieces in the very last round of the tournament. And if I win this game, I will get the 2nd place shared. And, well, actually my resistance was so good, I probably would have gotten 2nd or 3rd, I'm not sure. But let's have a look. I play e4, c5, and I play my pet line at this point, even though I don't even play it that often. It's just like this tournament, it was just kind of there. Okay, we get this setup, and basically I got a nice position. I was doing well. I was completely, well, maybe not completely, but I was outplaying him here in this endgame. Because it started off as slightly better for white, and now it's equal. And now, in practice, I'd say this is probably better for black. And it is. It is better for black. Because I have this passed pawn, I have this nice bishop, I have this check. And I was feeling great. I was like, yes, let's go. But, you know, as a wise man once said, during a chess game, you shouldn't have any emotions. Neither negative nor positive, because they are distracting. So let's have a look. Knight e3, e5, b4. And you're like, well, how did you lose this, Reese Arnold? What did you do? And I still ask that same question to myself. You know, the thing about this position is I do have this isolated pawn, and I kind of I was too ambitious. I thought like, okay, I'm gonna win now. You know, like in the sense that I wasn't focusing on the result, but subconsciously I was like, I've outplayed him the entire game. You know, this position is good. Let me thrust forward with e4. Let me get that pawn to the 3rd rank. And I wasn't objective about this. You see, he has this king and the knight, and he covers all the entry squares. So there's no way for my rook to check the king. And since I can't check that king, well, how am I gonna do anything? Because if I can't check the king, there's no issue for him. So I play this move, bishop d4, and he plays rook a5. And here I just had a sort of malfunction in my brain. I still, I don't know how I missed 2 moves which just completely equalized the game. Here I thought I was losing. Well, there's 2 moves which hold the game, which, first of all, rook c8 attacks this pawn, and when he takes, I can take. And I can't explain why I didn't see this. I don't know. It's very poor. And additionally, I could also play the move h4, and now when he takes, he has doubled pawns, so it doesn't matter. I can kind of just do this. It'll probably be fine. But, you know, under the pressure, I just had this sort of cloud in my mind, and I played this move King C7. Because I thought I was losing. I didn't look for the resources. I was like, okay, well, since I'm losing, let's just make a move. And, you know, but I don't know what happened here. There's a lot of moves which are fine, and yeah, sometimes, you know, you just see the clouds and you completely malfunction, and that's what happened here. I played King C7, plays Rook D5, great move. First getting my bishop to B6, not allowing my king to come there, and then, yeah, the most painful loss so far probably occurred, except for maybe round 6, which was of course also pretty bad. But yeah, here, you know, his pawns were too good, and I ultimately lost this game. So to close off this video, I want to discuss, you know, the thoughts and feelings of this game, or this tournament, I should say, of course. Well, you know, I'm still quite happy with the performance. As you guys can see, I did gain a lot of rating, but, you know, I do believe I'm quite underrated, as, you know, like 1.5 years ago, I had the very same rating I have now while I've been practicing all this time. Sometimes it just takes a while and you flip that switch in your mind. And lately I've been playing quite well, but yeah, of course, these last, you know, after the rest day, essentially, it's been quite rough, and that's something I hope to improve in the future. Yeah, you know, in my mind, first I framed it as an absolute loss for humanity. You know, no, I didn't say that, but it was pretty painful. But now, you know, I more so see it as a step on the road to something greater. You know, maybe this is just all a lesson, so next time I can perform better. And on that note, you know, the 6th place, it's still quite high. It's still better than I would have expected. It's not the top 3 though, and you can't have it all sometimes. So on that note, I close off this video, and have a nice rest of your day.